It is about dang time that we unpack the latest in the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively saga. It is truly the Amber Heard level drama of our time, but unfortunately, we have to wait until next March to watch this mess actually unfold in a courtroom. I have just been waiting around for the smoking gun. The detail that will come out that will turn us all back toward Team Blake, that will justify why this media war even started in the first place. But the more that comes out, the more Justin escapes the wrath of the internet in favor of their target, Blake. And while the internet is now holding fast to one side of this narrative, The Hollywood Reporter just came out with a new narrative in hopes of saving face for Blake. But first, to catch anyone blissfully unaware up to speed of what the prevailing narrative is at the moment, on a high level, it goes something like this. Okay, there was a famous novel turned into a movie, It Ends With Us, that happened last year. Fans started to sense a growing feud between co-stars Blake and Justin, who also happens to be the director of that film, and his studio owns the rights to the movie. Meanwhile, Blake was getting destroyed in the media for months via old footage from her past interviews. Basically, she was being painted as the mean girl. Heavily so.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
Then, over Christmas break, Lively filed a complaint with the California Civil Rights Department, which became public. It shouldn't have been, but it did. And in it, she accused Baldoni of a plethora of disturbing complaints about him and his producer's behavior on set. From walking in on her while she was breastfeeding, shaming her for her weight, improvised kissing, showing her naked videos of their spouses. The list went on, and suddenly, the backlash against Blake quieted for a few mere moments. I myself saw that and thought, oh my gosh, we were wrong. We thought that Justin was the good guy and Blake was the bad guy. Maybe the tables have turned. This evidence is very bad against Baldoni. And then in that same time frame, New York Times dropped a damning investigative piece framing Justin as the evil villain. The piece very clearly was worked on for months prior with the help of Lively. And just when I thought the internet was turning on Justin, he immediately clapped back with a $250 million libel suit against the New York Times. And then he filed a second suit against Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds and their publicist, seeking $400 million in damages. After that, he published a full-on website with every possible receipt he could muster to paint Lively in a much different light, including texts showing Blake inviting him into the trailer while she was breastfeeding and her being completely okay with it. Or the receipts showed that the video that she was accused of being shown of their naked wives was actually a birthing video in which one of their wives had just given birth, was holding a baby. She did not obviously have a top on, but she was covered with the baby. And it was because Blake was filming the birthing scene, and so they were trying to get inspo for how she should be acting. Context, everyone. The moral of this story is context is always key. Now, Justin continued to show a different side of the story, where he was bullied into silence and compliance for the post-production direction of the entire movie at the hands of Lively's harassment claims and her powerful husband, only for her, though, to end up going public with that story that vilified him anyways. She was basically threatening him that if he did not do everything that she demanded, that she was not going to promote the movie, and then he was also afraid that she was going to come out with this whole side of this whole harassment stuff. So he did all of these things and agreed to all of her demands because he thought, okay, she'll be happy, she'll promote the movie, she won't try to spin any of these complaints that she's had with me out into the public. But she did that anyways, as we've all come to see.
Hey, Blake. It is 2 a.m, and I'm really sorry. I f***ed up.
Now, I could go on for hours more with this information to really unpack everything that has been thoroughly absorbed into my brain at this point, but for the sake of getting to the most recent news, and for the sanity of my editors who would very much appreciate me keeping the episode to a reasonable length for editing purposes, I will move to the new stuff. Moral of the story so far, it seems like receipt after receipt has painted Baldoni in a much better light, or at least not in the wrong, while simultaneously making Lively's actions look less and less like a victim and more like a villain. I am just still waiting for Blake to provide her own receipts. Any day now, Blake, would be very nice. However, any of the videos of her end up just being old ones of herself, basically shooting herself in the foot by unintentionally solidifying the running theory that she intentionally took over the movie from the writing, directing, to sitting in the edit bays during the edit, which is insane for an actress to get the rights to do. I mean, Crazy. And again, used the threat of harassment claims and her big dragons, aka her husband and her BFF Taylor Swift, in order to reach that goal. Here is one of those latest videos. This one's bad.
It's just as important to say, okay, I believe in this, and that's why I'm standing up for it, and that's why I'm not being difficult. And then there are other moments to go like, am I the asshole in the room? Like, what is happening here? I would show up on a set. I knew that they just wanted me to show up and look cute and stand on a little pink sticker where I'm supposed to go and say what I'm supposed to say.
Just to note, that is what an actress is supposed to do. Like, if you were hired for a movie to be the actress, that's what you're supposed to do. That's it.
But I also knew that like that wasn't fulfilling for me, that I wanted to be a part of the storytelling, that I wanted to be a part of the narrative, whether that be in the writing,
be a director,
in the costume design, and creating the character. And sometimes I had directors or producers or writers who would welcome that and invite that once they saw that I was able to offer that. And sometimes I would have people who really resented that because they were like, we just hired you to be an actor. Yet when I went in the meetings, I would just seem like I'm just there to be the actor and ready to get the gig. I wouldn't reveal that I actually need to have authorship in order to feel fulfilled. So I think that for them, sometimes that might have felt like a rug pull because you're like...
You don't say a rug pull. Almost verbatim. What Baldoni has been saying is she came in and she just wanted to take over everything out of nowhere, and then successfully did so because she had these claims against him that she was wielding her power with. Also, I saw some people being like, well, she's a producer in the film. She wasn't. When she agreed to do the movie, she was an actress. She ended up getting producer rights because she inserted herself so much into the edit that they had to give her that, but she was not hired as a producer, which I found to be hilarious when I heard that.
It was a really strange position to be in because I felt like I don't want to just like be an actor. Like I want to, you know.
If you don't want to just be an actress, don't be an actress. Go be a writer. Go be a director. Go be a producer. Or come into it saying that you need those things. But she literally admits to like lying to get the job and then rug pulling. I mean, and that's what she is being accused of in this movie, which is why this old clip was just not good. Now, with all of that historical context, here are the latest findings in this public PR trial that is unfolding before our very eyes. Here's the latest article from The Hollywood Reporter that did a deep dive investigation into Baldoni. And it said, Justin Baldoni's leap of faith. What role did the controversial director's Baha'i religion play on set of It Ends With Us? Did Wayfarer's missionary miscues help set the stage for Hollywood's uncivil war? And then here's the photo that they had corresponding with that. This photo is hilarious to me. I'm just going to quickly unpack it for those of you who don't really know what you're looking at. Obviously, you have Justin holding the It Ends With Us book, which is what the movie was based on. And then Blake slinging a iPhone slingshot into Baldoni. And then in the background, you have Ryan Reynolds dressed up as Nice Pool, which is another character in the Deadpool series, which came out to apparently be making fun of Justin, which is a whole other side of this, that he literally made a character in his Marvel franchise fully making fun of feminist, long-haired Justin Baldoni. And then on the other side, you have Brian Friedman, which is Baldoni's attorney, just chilling. Because that man is confident. If anything, though, I saw this photo and I thought it was like a David and Goliath situation. That's where my brain first went. And then I thought it was weird because they're painting Blake as David. And I would see that as like the other way around. But first I was like, this is great for Blake. And then I was like, oh, okay. He does also seem like he has weapons, which is true. I mean, they both have weapons against each other. I don't see anything wrong with this. The idea actually of his faith sparked a memory in my hours of reading through his website that he had created to, again, house all of his receipts. Because deep in there were messages between his PR team noting that they need to stay away from any mentions of his Baha'i faith. The context was that it sort of seemed like it was a weird faith and they didn't want anyone to know about it because they didn't want to think he was weird. But The Hollywood Reporter decided to go much deeper. But before really diving into the article, the comments were just really angry over that photo. Someone said, you people do not care about sexual harassment. Uncivil war, as in a sexual harassment case. This is genuinely so disgusting. And on top of it, the fact that it's AI, truly disturbing and a shameful mockery. Why do they have Baldoni dressed like Jesus and Blake literally stoning him with the media? This is biased AF. Blake was apparently also not a fan of this portrayal, which I thought was interesting because I figured like she looks badass, she has this weapon, but she didn't like it. And a Daily Mail article said, The Hollywood Reporter should be ashamed of itself. A spokesperson for the Star, 37, told Daily Mail in a statement, the framing in this photo is outrageously insulting as it plays into every sexist trope about women who dare file a workplace complaint, turning them into the aggressor and suggesting they deserve the retaliation that comes their way. I hate reading that because I agree if they were doing that on a serious harassment case. The problem is that all of the evidence is heavily suggesting that perhaps this is not the serious claim that people thought that it was. So it seems like Blake and some people online took issue with the Hollywood Reporter poking fun at this very serious situation. Now that would make sense, but then I remember the fact that Ryan Reynolds was literally just on live television making a whole joke about this very situation. You know, the one where his wife has experienced severe emotional distress and harassment? Yeah, that one apparently is fair game for Ryan.
I have a question.
Oh, hey, Ryan Reynolds.
Hi.
Hey. Ryan Reynolds, how's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard?
The best part is just watching Blake's face. Like, I know she's in on this joke, but if you watch her face, everyone's like, oh my gosh, Blake didn't know what he was gonna say. Yes, she did. This was staged. This is how Hollywood works. But of course, no one else is allowed to poke fun at this or even question that perhaps it's not as serious as she's claiming it to be. The Hollywood Reporter, of course, picked up on that moment from SNL and they highlighted it in their article. And they said it was a valiant attempt to deflect some of the seriousness of the situation. But the reality is Lively and Reynolds are locked in a battle in which both sides see themselves as the aggrieved underdog. Lively has shared with her friends that she considers this a fight that's bigger than her, one likely to be remembered as the spark that ignited the next chapter of the Me Too movement. On the other side is a billionaire producer, a novice film director, and a small group of Baha'i employees who believe they're simply living up to the moral code of their faith. Justin Baldoni, his producer Jamie Heath, and his studio's billionaire co-founder Steve Sarwitz are all members of this Baha'i faith. The religion was founded in 1844 in Iran, but has since grown to being in 230 different countries and currently has over 3,000 members in the LA Baha'i community. The article went on describing the religion and said, nevertheless, there's a strict internal code. Central tenets include reconciling religious belief with science and strict equality among men and women. Premarital sex is forbidden, as is the consumption of alcohol or drugs, and prayer, fasting, and meditation are the main rituals. Even before It Ends With Us, Baldoni wasn't afraid to inject elements of his religion on the set. He did talk about his religion a lot, says a source who worked on the 2019 coming-of-age romance 5 Feet Apart, which Baldoni also directed. This has shades of Scientology, but with less prominence and people hovering at all times. Now, although I may not agree with all of Justin's beliefs here, I do think that we can all agree that working on your faith is a good thing. And it should be just as important as working on your physical health, which is why I'm excited to talk to you about Lumen. It is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It measures your metabolism through your breath and shows you if you're burning fats or carbs in real time. And here's the thing about metabolism. It's your body's engine, converting food into fuel that keeps you going. And when your metabolism is working optimally, everything improves, from your energy levels to your sleep quality. I love using my Lumen first thing in the morning or after I eat meals because I can actually see how my metabolism is working through the day or working through the food that I've just consumed, which is so interesting to get that inside look into your body. And it is also just so helpful. All you have to do is breathe into it first thing in the morning and you will get a personalized nutrition recommendation for your day. You can even use it before and after workouts and meals to understand exactly what's happening in your body. Plus, it adapts to your needs, even tracking and adjusting for hormonal changes. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/Conrad to get 20% off your Lumen. That is lumen.me/Conrad for 20% off your first purchase. And thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring today's episode and keeping my health on track. Let's get back to Justin, because as for the way that this whole faith impacts his working relationships, apparently it makes them too caring and too oversharing. When Baldoni and Wayfair executives hold meetings, they often start by asking participants to go around the table and share something private, something that brings them joy and has nothing to do with their jobs or their career. In certain professional circles, like, say, those of yoga instructors and doulas, this type of icebreaker might be welcomed. But among time-crunched agents, entertainment lawyers, and studio executives, folks not exactly known for their touchy-feely ways, a gesture of this nature comes with risks. In my head, I was like, I'm sorry, are we at cafe effing gratitude, says a female executive at a production company who sat down with Wayfair executives last year, including Baldoni. Why are you imposing your culture on this meeting that's being held at our offices? I can't explain exactly why, but it made me so uncomfortable. It's just funny that, like, they ask, what brings you joy? It's like very hippy dippy, peace, love, whatever. But the fact that they're like, oh, it made me so uncomfortable. How dare they ask about, like, joy and peace and happiness and, like, classic executives. But also, I get both sides of it. Well, really, I just get their side because I would also be like, what the heck are we talking about? Like, let's talk about business. He might be perceived as weird. Doesn't make him malicious or harmful. But the article goes on and says, another source who also worked on 5 Feet Apart, which is his old film, has a very different impression of Baldoni and the influence of his religion on the set. I've never worked with a male director who was so worried about everyone's emotional and mental well-being, says the source. There is an openness and an emotionality to his style that was more typical of a woman, and it probably wouldn't be an issue if it was a female director because of the preconceived notions of gender. But if you get a bunch of Teamsters together who are told that they should share their feelings, of course, someone is going to ask, why is he such a freak? But Justin genuinely believes that if we do this, we'll be working better as a group. There's a little bit of an arrogance to it. It's like he doesn't want to acknowledge the world we live in. I guess that's the world in which there are differences between men and women. Like, it's funny to me, like, well, he doesn't want to know because, we're not equal. And there is this, it's like, no, there's a reason why we're not completely the same, because men and women will never be the same. And I think that this is funny because he's trying to, like, have that same level of emotionality as a woman. And then the women are like, ugh. Like, he can't win. Anything that I feel like I've seen in, like, the voice memos or any of the notes that he has written to Blake or whatever, if anything, he's being too emotional. He's being too open. And I perceive that as, like, why are you doing that? And now I get it. Like, he's just literally like that. Although Blake was BFFs with him at first, she changed her tune and then suddenly took all of that openness as, like, inappropriate, where really he's just, like, talking and just treating her like an equal.
So far, I think he sounds like a decent, nice guy.
Yeah.
Film sets are super stressful, so
yeah,
they're very high.
They're
of
high
curse
stress
words,
environments.
Lots of stuff like that. It doesn't strike me as super odd for someone to come in there and try to spin it the other way.
Do something
to
different.
Be
Yes.
happy, positive.
Right.
Because, whenever it is happy and positive, usually you get better work out of people.
Maybe it could be good. Yeah, it's worth a shot. Apparently, it's not, because this has backfired on him tremendously. How dare he treat everyone as equals? It's funny, though, too, because they were sort of implying like there are these gender confines, or at least gender stereotypes expected from each of the sexes. He's going against the perceived notions of gender. Like, that's also implying like there are, these biological gender separate things which are okay. But Justin's trying to break those down, and it's not working.
The same people who are pushing for revolutionizing gender norms,
Right.
are now
like,
against someone
actually-
who's actually revolutionizing gender
like
norms.
this, never mind, this feels too weird. Ladies, make up your mind. Do you want the super male feminist or not? Because Justin, like, clearly is that. And they do not like it. How dare he treat you like your BFF girlfriend would? Because that's how this feels. It feels like if this was a chick, women would not have had an issue. Or Blake wouldn't have had these issues that she's having. But he's a dude. And so obviously she's treating him like, well, you're a dude. But he's trying to be like, we're all the same. We're all equal. I'm like, we're not all the same. I think that's the moral that I keep picking up, is like, if he was a chick, this would have been different. This girl even says in this article, if he was a female director, it wouldn't have been weird. Justin, you're a dude. Sorry, bro. Saying the quiet part out loud. It sounds like he was trying to live in a world in which the two sexes were exactly the same. And I guess the hippie, peace-loving, gender equality, man bun-wearing Baldoni perhaps really is the male feminist he claims to be. In fact, upon further research into this religion, it is literally a core tenet of his religion that he has had since childhood. So his Man Enough podcast might actually be legit and not just for show, or his numerous projects all having something to do with serving a larger mission that he believes in, which they want you to have a purpose. They want all of the work you do to mean something more outside of yourself. He's walking the walk that he believes in. But as is common with the woke world, they end up eating their own anyways. The uber woke man versus the woke female girl boss. Who will win? The article continued. It was such an interesting article to me. And it said, everybody is valuable no matter where you are in the hierarchy of the production. Says a person who worked on 5 Feet Apart of Baldoni's interpersonal directional style. Everyone had the ability to bring up any concerns that are happening in our community. He liked to use that term, community, which again, that goes back to the equality on set that is not standard in the industry, to be able to just talk to the director as whatever low-level employees. Like, that's not normal. Justin was apparently creating an environment in which everyone can speak, and it's one happy kumbaya hugging family, but apparently it has its drawbacks. The article goes on and says that deference, not surprisingly, opened a new power vacuum on the set of It Ends With Us, and Lively, sources say, was more than happy to step into that vacuum. Too woke for his own good, apparently. Because as his counter lawsuits assert, he was the one who got walked all over by Blake, and she used her experiences to make him submit to her in every one of her demands. By the time she was finished with him, he couldn't even walk the carpet of his own movie premiere with the rest of the cast. A cast, mind you, that during filming was interviewed and asked how they liked working with Baldoni. They had nothing but positive things to say about him. Even the young lead female actress who plays Lively's character as a teenager went out of her way to describe how respectful and attentive Baldoni was during the intimate scenes that she had to film and how he created, quote, a comfortable safe space for her. I mean, during the red carpet premiere, he was even sent to the basement, fully forced to bend a knee in every respect. Blake was probably uncomfortable. I'm not disputing that at all. In fact, there were probably moments from her lawsuit that I was like, yeah, that's a very weird thing to do. But uncomfortable in wielding harassment claims are two different beasts. He did do weird things, and she didn't care when they were happening because she was buddy-buddy with him, and then all of a sudden she goes back and pulls, like, these old conversations they had, and I was like, oh, it's actually very creepy, when she was totally engaging in the conversation in the moment. So it doesn't help her theory that, like, he's some creepy predator, which, by the way, Ryan Reynolds was calling him a predator to other executives in the industry. So to weaponize this and then go so far as to call him a predator because of it, not unless you have very valid things to call that man a predator. That's going, like, super low.
He's playing dirty.
Playing dirty. That's why people are angry, Blake. You seem to be playing a bit too dirty for what the circumstances seem to warrant. But Blake holds that her discomfort was harassment and that other women on the set felt the same way that she did. So it wasn't too shocking when news of her co-star's discomfort hit the news this week. Blake Lively's co-star Jenny Slate allegedly filed an HR complaint while filming It Ends With Us. So I saw that and I thought, is that the smoking gun? Perhaps this is now proof that other women have experienced things that seem to have perhaps more merit than Blake's nuanced situation, but it turns out that she didn't actually file an HR complaint. On the surface, it did not look good for Baldoni, until, of course, more details came to light. The Hollywood Reporter covered this part as well, and they said, it wasn't just Baldoni who ran into issues when interacting with cast members. The Hollywood Reporter has learned more about the nature of the complaint that It Ends With Us actress Jenny Slate lodged, which is referenced in court documents, but with Slate's name redacted. It stemmed with an interaction with Heath, which is Justin Baldoni's producer, best friend, co-founder of Wayfair Studios, all that stuff. And this was all about the apartment that Slate had rented in New York City where It Ends With Us was shooting. Slate, who has a toddler, told him she wasn't thrilled with the space she had rented, but that moving wasn't an option because she didn't want to lose the sizable security deposit, which was around $15,000. Heath informed Slate that Wayfair would reimburse her for the lost security deposit so she could find better accommodations. But apparently, he made the offer using language that made Slate uncomfortable. Sources say he focused intensely on the sanctity of motherhood and Slate's role as a mother. According to sources, wonder who those sources were, Sony became aware of Slate's concerns and informed Wayfair about them. A spokesperson for Slate did not return multiple requests for comment. And to be even more clear, because there were conflicting reports and editor's notes added to this story, because there was actually no official complaint ever made by Jenny Slate. The information just happened to, quote, make its way to Sony execs. Which in my eyes, Blake is complaining about Justin. Jenny goes, oh yeah, this one time he did this thing to me. Blake goes, oh my gosh, proof that I'm not the only one to be outraged and disgusted by Justin Baldoni, sends that to the Sony execs, who she's very close with, and then Sony tells Wayfair about it. That's how I see that going, given Blake's buddy-buddiness with the executives at Sony. No wonder Jenny Slate had not come out with this information of her own free will. It does not help the situation. They were too nice to a mother with a toddler. They talk too much about how important it is for her as a mother. Like, God forbid. Every piece of evidence, I think, is finally going to seal the deal and be like, I see it now. And every time, I'm just like, these guys were too nice.
On top of that being comments about mother, it's also, here's 15 grand.
Right.
Back.
It doesn't sound like that was going to be paid for by the movie. So it was just them going out of their way to be like, here's 15 grand. We're going to get you out of this because we care about you. And I would love, Jenny, please, if you're watching this, please come out and say exactly what they said. Because I would love to know how creepy this was, because maybe there's a way this could have been creepy. But tell us. Like, make us understand, because right now we are not understanding. Maybe they said it in some weird woo-woo way. But again, I am still waiting for that smoking gun to paint Justin as the irrefutable villain here. I know woo-woo. I know it. I used to live in LA. Honestly, the same area where Justin, I know these people. And it can be woo-woo and weird, but it doesn't mean they're bad. The comments under the Jenny Slate part of the story were great. Someone said, Jenny Slate probably shared this experience with Blake Lively, who then leaked it to the press to bolster her case and strong-arm her to come forward, which at this point, I don't think Jenny Slate wants any part of this. Neither do I. Someone else said, this can't go to trial. There are more changing stories than asking your kids who broke the living room lamp. The attorneys are going to eat them alive. If this actually makes its way to trial, I will be shocked. First of all, for the sake of everyone's reputations here, there is no way that they want to bear another year of this back and forth. Baldoni's lawyer is confident in his client winning, while every other day I feel like there is another headline about Blake's team trying to get certain elements sealed or dismissed from the case. While the Hollywood Reporter's deep dive into Baldoni's religion paints a clear picture of his more woo-woo tendencies, it doesn't suddenly change everyone's perspective of Baldoni. At least it certainly doesn't worsen it. If anything, it seems to provide a semblance of further understanding as to why some of the ways he acts may be seen as bizarre to the average person. But regardless, the goal of the movie, the reason Baldoni claims to have secured the option and produced the movie in the first place, was to raise awareness of domestic violence. And instead, this drama has just ignited a discussion over a celebrity Me Too 2.0. They have lost the plot. Literally. And while reading the lawsuits and watching this back and forth is arguably 10 times more interesting than reading the books that started this whole saga in the first place, I do hope that it finally ends with them soon. Thanks so much for watching today's episode. If you want more content like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video if you enjoyed it. And last but not least, if you want more content, you can follow me on X and Instagram. Thanks so much and have a great day.